right. Let me. I'll welcome everyone here to our November Civic League meeting. This will be. We'll get to this later, but this will be the last Civic League meeting of the year. But we thank you all for coming. Ahead of, and thankfully it's not next Monday. But if you don't know me, I'm Scott Gerlinger. We're president of the Civic League. We also have Aaron, our vice president, Brenda, our secretary, Ray is our treasurer, and computer mouse mover to make sure it doesn't go to sleep. Liz is one of our at-large board members. You wave, Liz. Okay. And then Carly is our newsletter editor, and I think Chris, Zach, and Dan are not here, so we have three others too. Welcome everyone, and I will kick us off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, officer, I'll turn it over to you for our police report.
All right. On 11/10/2024, you had a shooting into the occupied dwelling that was in 7700 block of Doris Drive. Still under investigation. They do have leads that they're following up on. It was an isolated incident. It was directed at the victim, was the intended person that it was aimed for. So it wasn't just random. 11/5, you had an aggravated assault, same location, different suspect, same victim. Arrest was made in that he was stabbed in the hand after an argument in the front yard. Yeah. 11/6, 7700 Doris Drive again. RCA parts from auto. He had stolen plates. 400 block Birmingham Avenue, 1031. He had stolen tire. 11/15, he had a stolen vehicle, 101 Burleigh. Vehicle was located with the individual and suspect was arrested on scene. So that was cleared by arrest. Then 100 block West Norfolk Road at the 7-Eleven on 1028, a larceny from building. Individual left their identification at the wall at the 7-Eleven. When they came back, the ID was stolen. So that's what you had since your last meeting.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about them closing the 7-Eleven?
I haven't heard anything about them closing it, no. The Walgreens might be something different, but that has something to do with Walgreens. I think it's closing their stuff. But I haven't heard anything.
At our last meeting, you were going to check into that greenhouse. Is anybody going to talk about that today, Scott?
Well, yeah, if we were talking about codes, we've got codes here to talk. We can ask specific
It
questions.
looks terrible from the back.
Yeah, it looks worse windows are.
Yeah, it all around.
Or not to mention the ranting and raving people walking down the street in the middle of the road during the day.
Yeah.
The nude one, that one.
Yeah, well, there was one the other day I almost called on because he was walking down the 200 block of Burleigh screaming obscenities in the middle of the road. And pretty sure he was on something, but yeah, it was kind of early-ish in the morning. I was out walking the dog, so.
Yeah, it's all over the radar at the precinct. The officers and the patrol guys know to.
So who's going to do something about it? It's going to
Yeah, it's got to be a mixture of. It's got to be a mixture of some. All I can do is keep asking for narcotics to look at it. I can't make them look at it. Then you have code enforcement can only do so much on the outside. Our guys went inside and I got their video camera footage and they didn't see anything that, they said it looked actually fine inside. There's no squishy floorboards. So I wasn't able to get anything from those officers, but it is out there that any officers that go in the house for whatever reason, if they can find something wrong, to let me know so that I can assist codes in getting back in there. So.
Anybody else who has code violations doesn't get away with that.
Well, they do fix them temporarily.
Yes,
Right.
so yeah, so the other thing is when he does get cited for things on the outside, he fixes them with the cheapest material item that meets the thing. So if it's plexiglass or parts of siding or
Yeah.
he'll fix it to where just enough to where he can get by. And keep charging.
Officer Steve, there was a commotion, not even an hour ago, down my.
7811 Westmere Road.
Right, there was about 3 or 4 the wagons, everyone, paramedic possibly?
Yeah, there's a medic. As
Yeah,
far as
Was it some sort of altercation?
yeah, I think it was a domestic.
Okay,
I was at the range when it was going on and on the way here, so I haven't had a chance to actually dive into it, but I could hear it going on and some of the stuff that was, but I believe it was a domestic and there were some people fighting.
and we just got the last part of it, the wagons were still there, and of course, the fire truck, I guess, was backing up and then coming out, and it was a.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
People are sleep at.
That's the way I remember.
All right. Good deal. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. We'll see you in January. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to you. As Joan said, we've had some questions, concerns about code stuff, and so we thought we'd bring in codes to help explain what codes can do, what codes can't do. But so this is William. I apologize on the agenda. Apparently, I got overexcited, put an S on the end of his name. His name is actually William, not Williams. So,
Yeah, I prefer to go by Will. I know a lot of you guys probably interacted with Rocky Chilton. He was the area inspector before me. He just got moved over to Norview. So 101 Burley is, I assume, probably the biggest questions here. I will tell you that we are in the process of trying to get it placarded for whatever we can. Without being able to get into the house, it's difficult because even though the outside looks bad, up to code, it does work outside of, currently have it written up for the glasses or the windows being broken.
Right.
And I'm going to write it up for the front steps, but outside of being able to get into the property, that's really all I can do outside of the trash that piles up throughout the day. I have spoken to one of the tenants that was in there, Mr. I believe his name was Blackwell. Apparently he's been fixing up the inside of the property. So I don't know if that's why it looks good in retrospect whenever the officers go into it. So that is a work in progress. We are trying to get it placarded.
When you write them up, what happens?
So for a VMC or Virginia Property Maintenance case, they have 30 days to correct the violation. So if I write it up yesterday or tomorrow, they still can't do anything until after December. And then I can take them to court after the 30 days. And then it's up to a judge whether they give them an extended amount of time longer, if they fine them, that sort of thing from there. But
How many people are allowed to live in that house?
so I think it's an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's a duplex or if it's a quad. It's a quad. So quite a decent amount of people in a quad. You can have up to 4 non-related individuals sharing an apartment. It really depends on the rooms. And then with it being a quad, it could be quite a lot of people. So I've seen I think 4 different people come and go. I know we're gonna try to get that white truck out of there soon too. I'm hoping to catch it with a flat tire or something because it has antique plates, so it's difficult to touch it. But any other questions outside of Burley?
Um,
Oh, sorry.
7621 Gloucester Avenue, they have individual people who feel like they can park their SUVs in the yard. And I'm not sure, but ever since that whole entire street on Mill Creek Road is closed off, people think they can park whichever way they want, backwards and everywhere else on that road. They don't care because the road's blocked off, so it's free, it's just, it just throws out the, And I have another area also, I'd like to say something.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Have you seen that big van, a big old school bus that has black and covered where people live in it? stuff like that?
Do you know exactly which street it's on? I've only been in the area for about 2 weeks now. We just swapped,
Okay. I'll
so
talk to you later.
I have been,
I have pictures for that one.
yeah,
It's
I
a
have
different
been
area.
trying to get it in there. I know that I've been doing a lot of complaints. I think Miss Letts, I've seen her name quite a few times pop up, so it's really just been Burley and a little bit of North Shore that have been getting hit
Gloucester
on.
Avenue.
Okay.
Look at the codes and there's somebody at 7641 who they have netting on their front porch and it's the most nasty stuff. There's like 20, no, actually. She has 7 children, plus her mother, plus her niece, plus her sister, and there's herself. So there's like a lot of people in the house. But
Okay.
I'm not saying nothing, they're really nice people. It's just that it's people come over to the home and they say, I'm glad that's not the house in Winchester. Sorry about that house across the street. It's just, just boys, mostly boys and one girl, daughter. And boys are, they like having fun. They leave the garbage cans on the front yard and everything else. But
Okay.
they're nice people. But people like parking their car all down Woodford Road in the yard too. I thought that was.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of posts, so we are going to, I'm going to hopefully plot a sweep when
Good.
it calms down a little bit more,
Sweeps
give a little
are
bit break
beautiful.
from the summer months. So hopefully we can do a sweep and get a couple of abandons and posts off the yards. A couple in-outs out there too that I'm hoping to get out of there.
There's a reason, people don't realize what's the reason why they can't park their car in the yard, or because, I mean, what does.
Yeah, well-
People have to be educated.
We have a lot of military people, and really it's honestly just Norfolk and certain 757 cities that prevent the parking on the front yard. North Carolina, they don't care. A lot of the other like southern states do not care.
Correct.
Even certain cities in Virginia are more lenient with it. So
We used to have a newsletter that came to our door. Thank you. And people wanted to read it from there, but we don't have, people don't realize it's on the internet anymore, so.
yeah,
It would be nice if there were signs for people to say, don't park in grass, grass and everything, but it doesn't work out that way. People get to it.
it's good. Anything else?
Is there, if you call the call center and report something, does it take that 30 days also before?
So if you report it to the call center, the 30 days is just from when I cite it. So when I go out to cite it, if you put something into the call center, I normally get it within 24 to 48 hours, depending on if it's a Friday and over the weekend. And then from there, I have 7 days to go out and make an inspection. And then from there, it's 30 days. So roughly from when you put in the call center complaint, it'll probably be anywhere from 37 to 40 days. If it's a VMC case. If it's not a VMC case, if it's a nuisance case, like tall weeds and grass, a post parked on an unapproved surface, or like an abandoned vehicle, it's just 7 days. It's
This
different.
is stuff that's put on the city easement side, like there's 2 long logs and then there's like a.
So that
stump.
might be going to waste management. 'Cause
It's not waste, it's something that he's put there in his yard to keep people from turning in the driveway and going through.
Oh,
And
so
there's 2 big empty flower pots, they look like there.
he's using it to block city parking on the street. That's what I'm hearing.
I don't exactly know.
Okay, because if it's
I
on
thought we were
the,
neighbors.
so it could be a right-of-way inspector. I don't do city right-of-ways, so if he's blocking the city street, that would
No,
be a
it's on the city easement side though, on the side yard.
Okay, I'd have to look at it, so I'm being honest. Because depending on where it is, depends on what department it goes to, so.
Yeah, it's down at the end of North Shore Road.
Okay.
623.
623.
So I know one question we'd had in the past, related to, I guess we used to call it parking on the grass, now it's parking on unapproved surfaces. Is like, what classifies as a unapproved surface? I'm gonna say, cause I think we had some trouble in the past, and maybe that's why they changed the terminology. Is it like, sometimes people would even pour like a gravel driveway,
So
and then they let the grass grow to the point where the driveway didn't exist anymore.
that's difficult. If there's a lot of times if there's an apron or some sort of driveway going past the curb, that's where you can mark where the driveway is. However, it has to be an approved substance, right? So it has to be concrete or something that zoning has deemed accessible for you to park on.
Okay.
That's what makes it an approved surface.
Okay.
So it's unimproved, so it's no grass. Certain gravels they're even moving away from, like they don't really like the gravel driveways anymore. But other than that, that's really it. And it's mostly the front yard unless you have a corner lot. If you live on the corner, you lose all of your side yard privileges. So it's practically like having 2 front yards. So if you have a corner lot, just be aware you have 2 front yards. You do not have a side yard. So anything that you could park on your side yard doesn't apply to you. So that would be recreational.
If there's a driveway.
If you have if you're parking in the driveway, yes, you're good. It's more so for RVs, boats, trailers, that sort of thing. You can't park an RV or a recreational vehicle on your side yard if you have a corner lot. If you have a regular lot, you can park it on the side behind the front plane of the house.
Okay. So if you're on the corner and you have a driveway and a side yard.
So you could park in the driveway, not the side yard.
You can't park in the grass.
Not on the corner?
So where is your driveway on the same side where your front door is?
No.
Okay, so your driveway is parked on the side lot, on your side
Yes.
yard. So your front door marks your front plane of your house. So that is considered where your front yard would be. And then the side yard with the driveway, you can park in the driveway, but you can't park on the grass beside the driveway.
But on the other side of the house.
Yeah, between the 2 houses, yes, that's a side yard. So most,
So I can.
yes, most houses
Not
have.
between you and me, but between you and
Between-
me. Just want to make that clear.
So you have a front yard, 2 side yards, and a rear yard. If you have a corner lot, whatever side is located on the second street is considered a front yard in the sense of the code. So you can't park recreational vehicles or boats there.
Oh, so if,
Yeah.
so on our street, everyone's garage is like behind the house, so you, on the corner, the driveways are behind the house. On the side street, so you can't park a boat or a trailer there.
No, unless you can get it fully behind the rear plane of the house. If you can get it fully behind the house, then you're okay.
In the back.
But it has to be in the rear yard.
Or I'm just asking for somebody. who is
So
behind.
that, with that situation, I was told that if you look out your front door and you look right and left, if you look at see an RV, that RV needs to go back further. Is
Yeah,
that-
so your recreational vehicle need to be parked behind the front plane of the house. So wherever your door is, as long as you don't have like a large like garage kickoff, it has to be parked behind the front plane. So this is the front plane, it has to be parked behind it. It can't be, the bumper can't be with it, it has to be behind it. If not, it's a violation and it could be towed.
And that's something, I guess, with these vehicle things that you would cite it, but you'd work, coordinate with the police department to actually get the.
To tow the vehicle? No, so we would,
That's all.
we
internal
can
to code.
if it is a, like a hostile,
Okay.
thing like that. We have a city impound lot.
Okay.
They have drivers, they have a list of tow companies that they have. The same people that would come and tow an abandoned vehicle off the street.
Okay.
We would have to supervise, meet the driver on site. They would tow the vehicle off your property. Yep. If you have a gate there, they're able to, if I cite something, in your backyard, like I say, it's, an op or trash and debris or tall weeds and grass. If you have a gate that is locked, but I have cited it for a rear yard, even if you keep that gate locked and we abate it, our city contractors come, they will cut your lock, go into your backyard, cut the grass, issue you a new lock that you would then have to come to our office to get the key for. Okay,
Nice.
so,
Do you get paid for mowing the grass? I guess?
the
Don't they
city
have to
does a
pay?
lien. We have 3 contractors that, it goes out, when something is abated, we issue it, we submit it for abatement, the contractors will go and perform their own site inspection. They will then issue a bid, whichever of the 3 bids is lowest, that's which one gets
They're
picked.
not
So
cheap.
we can have the city cut your front yard, if the 3 contractors, if the lowest is $1,000, then you're gonna be charged a lien of
It's not
$1,000 to
cheap.
your property.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not cheap.
All right.
Yeah, it's,
We have-
Okay.
I've seen it.
Mow the grass.
I would be on for 2 years.
We bought a-
That's not, you can't dump something right in the first side of the driveway.
no, so you'd have to go to get a new, easiest way to get whatever is approved is to go to zoning, and they'll have to issue, you'd have to get a permit either way, but zoning will come out and they'll do their inspection, and they will be able to tell you exactly what you can and cannot use.
So what are maybe the biggest things you've seen that where, I guess someone's asking for codes to act, but you say, no, sorry, that's not our jurisdiction. We, like, we're not able to help with that?
So the biggest thing with codes is ugly isn't a violation. If the property is ugly, like I don't know if you guys know the house on Philpott's, the one that's white with all the red painting on it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's in code. It's ugly to a lot of people, but it doesn't break a violation. So even though you might find it horrific, if there's no violation, because I can only enforce the bare minimum, I can't go above that. That's state law. So even if it's ugly, if there's no violation, I can't do anything, no matter how many times you put in a complaint. I cannot do anything if there's no violation.
I feel like if somebody's asking for 10 gallons of paint outside of specific colors, they have to get signed off by all their.
We need an HOA for that.
I have a question about some of the streets, like Burley, Baycox, on the North Shore. We have utilities running on the back of the lots. Well, now it's just the power lines and telephone lines with that. The intersection between nuisance maintenance for like tall grasses and weeds and things on the property owner versus Dominion and the line, how does that all come together? Because I've dealt with it so far, it's been complicated.
Yeah. So utilities like to not do whatever they don't have to do.
That's what I've found.
So I would just cut it myself, if I'm being honest with you, just because it's going to prevent you from having to fight for, it could take 3 weeks to get out there and decide if they're going to cut it. And if it's Dominion and not us, then it's going to be even longer. I have no way to even put pressure on it.
Yeah.
If it's utilities or like a paper lot where it's Parks Forestry,
That's what exactly.
it's a little bit easier because I feel like, hey guys, I need you to go out there and cut this, and we can escalate it to someone a little bit higher up. With Dominion, I have zero control. Same thing with streetlights. If the streetlight is out, that's not a codes thing. It's not a city thing. It's Dominion power all day. So anybody sending me a complaint about a streetlight going out, it's going to get an unfounded response back. A complaint that says you're going to have to issue it to Dominion power.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
So
that takes forever.
yeah.
Speaking of lights,
No problem.
if
They don't
somebody
have
has
the
lights that actually shine on
Dominion
your
doesn't have
property,
any street.
So bright lights, it's either we're not 100% sure who's gonna go to yet. It's either gonna be a me or a zoning thing. It's difficult because I can only be there during my work day, and a lot of times it's not dark enough for the lights to be on. You can try to call the non-emergency number and get an officer out there and handle it that way. That'll probably be your best bet, apart from if zoning goes out there, might be able to do a different time. But a lot of times for bright lights, I'm there during the day. The light's not on.
Yeah, I think a lot of, I think sometimes we've run into, so if it's a city property that is not being maintained.
You can still send it to me.
Okay.
You can still send it to me. If it's vacant, you can send it to me as well. We'll get it handled that way.
Okay.
But if it is a city lot, even if it's a paper street, you can send it to me. And I'll give it
How do we send it to you?
You can call Norfolk Cares. You can also go to, it's online, My Norfolk. You can put a complaint in through there. You have to be careful with what subsection you put, what category you put, because then it automatically will come to me or will go to somebody else depending on what you put. So anything like waste storage will most likely go to waste management. Certain zoning complaints may come to me, may not. I ask that if you do send a trash and debris complaint, you look for the section that says nuisance violation, and you're not sending it as a housing structure complaint, because that'll get closed, unfounded, and then you'll have no idea where the complaint goes from there, because I'll have to make a second case, so you won't be updated on it. It won't be connected to your complaint at all. So that is also an issue. I know a lot of people send complaints and they get the
closed.
the closed
I've
or
gotten that
closed
before.
unfounded back, and they're asking why, and then
Like, it doesn't matter if someone has a front porch that's big and it's just got stuff piled on it.
yep, just trash and debris. Because it'll be the housing and accessories are more so for like garages or like fallen fences or something wrong with the house itself, like siding's falling down, windows are broken. The nuisance violations are for the tall weeds and grass, in-out vehicles, abandoned vehicles, parked on your underground surface, and your trash and debris, stuff like that.
And it doesn't help your case if multiple people got together and put in multiple
So you can put in, everybody in here can put in a separate complaint on one house.
Uh-huh,
I'm just gonna pick whichever one I feel.
uh-huh.
It is like a
Right, so
voting
just
system,
to
yeah.
make it clear for everybody.
You'll get a different, it'll be closed duplicate violation. So
Right.
you understand that another person put in a complaint, that's why yours is closed.
Right.
If you get closed unfounded, it means when I got out there was nothing that I could see that was a violation. A lot of times that'll happen with parked on underproof surface because they'll be there after work. They'll park there overnight and then they're gone by the time I get out there in the morning. Same thing with some abandoned vehicles. People will park it on the street. They'll leave for the morning. When I go out, it's no longer there. Closed duplicate violation is as obvious as it is. It's a duplicate violation. Someone else put one in before you. I got their complaint first, worked it through their complaint. Yours has been closed. And then the other one you should get would be just closed. And that means the violation was corrected. It was sent for abatement, or it was submitted for court.
And all the light poles have a number on them somewhere.
Yeah, for Dominion.
For Dominion, you do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I see light pole, I just stop. I close it out, go to Dominion, and I'm gonna look, and I'm gonna go to light pole. So I'm not gonna.
Well, and just one of the things that's been a thorn in our side for the time. I mean, there's nothing I think you can help with, if I'm gonna do this right, regarding stuff that's near like trash or grass near the railroad tracks, right?
No, so that's Norfolk Southern. You can send it to me. I get some pictures and I could try to send it to we have a couple contacts, but when they go out to do it, I think they have their own schedule. So that's like that. I will tell you, city properties, city lots, our gym lots and stuff are cut on a 2-week basis. Now that it's becoming a winter, it might extend. So if you do see something, a city property, and you send me in a complaint, it's been a couple weeks, it's just they're waiting on their schedule. That's all that
I
is.
have a question. How often do they pick up trash on the city properties? Because sometimes these cans over here are full all the time.
So I do know that waste management has been understaffed, and I also know that for certain of the larger dumpsters, we do outsource that. So some of it's been outsourced, some of it is us. I think waste management is just struggling with that at the moment. So I think they're focusing on actual occupied properties at the moment. But I do know that our office is also being missed quite often. So any other questions?
Do you have any funny stories?
Not really for like the office, I guess. I guess they're more so funny if you know what's like going on. A lot of it's like it's humor from me and the guys. You know, more so we walk into a house and it's just like you never guess what I saw today. That's funny what it gets. I know there have been a couple of guys that walked in and like people have been naked or whatever, and it's like, oh, I forgot I had an inspection, and you're like, oh, well, I called you 15 minutes ago. That's probably about it. All right, awesome. Well, I have a few of my cards. I'll pass around if anybody wants them.
Yeah, if you want something back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys have any other
Thank you
questions?
so much,
Feel
Will.
free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. All right. So we've been joking, and maybe you saw this in the newsletter about that was like the YIMBY, not my backyard, part of the meeting tonight, and here we have YIMBY, yes, in my backyard.
Is anyone here in NIMBY? Anyone a hater? No? Okay, that's good. Yeah, I don't know.
Formal for Scott.
Yeah, I don't know why Scott was making that joke. I mean, honestly, as you guys all saw, I think Will does like an incredibly important job for the city. He probably gets a lot of flack on a day-to-day basis, so he honestly deserves all the support he can get. I don't consider Will a NIMBY at all. Hopefully, I don't think anybody here is a NIMBY since no one raised their hand. But I am, because I guess we're all YIMBYs here. So YIMBY Hampton Roads, YIMBY stands for yes in my backyard, right, as opposed to not in my backyard, right? You guys have seen the horror stories. Sometimes you'll see them on YouTube or TikTok or whatever you kids are watching nowadays. Where a development will go before city council. And you get the people coming out in droves going, no, we don't want this. And then the city council kind of feels like they have no choice but to reject it down. We are the other side of that, right? We're the people that go before city council and say, no, actually, we actually really like this idea. This idea is really great for our city, really great for our region, really great for our communities in a lot of different ways. So, you know, I think I appreciate Scott inviting us at such an important time, because Hampton Roads is in the middle of the housing crisis right now. Councilman Thomas isn't here today, but I don't know if you guys have been seeing the press, but they're talking about shutting down some schools right now in Norfolk. That's a product in a lot of ways of the housing crisis. Norfolk's population has flatlined and is now teetering on decline. Virginia Beach has been the same way for a decade or so now. Chesapeake is growing a little bit, Suffolk is growing a little bit, but what we're seeing there is kind of that sprawled out development. It's people moving from Virginia Beach and Norfolk and Portsmouth to those outer, what we call exurbs, right, suburbs areas. And so not only does it shut down schools, but it also leads to a stagnating economy. It leads to brain drain. It leads to, you know, businesses aren't able to sustain themselves. You do see that. Probably more importantly, though, is that the city becomes unable to have the tax base that it can have to support itself, right? Within the next 50 years or so, what's our city's biggest challenge? Probably sea level rise, right? City is undertaking massive infrastructure projects right now. We're all well aware of the flood wall. City council even today was addressing how do we deal with that kind of day-to-day flooding, the kind of stuff that we saw last week, right? Well, that's going to cost money as well. Without the tax revenue, the city's not going to be able to pay for that. And so we are advocating for more housing units to be built across the city. There's other ways to combat the housing crisis, right? You can give home buyers money to buy homes, right? You could perhaps, allow for more Section 8 housing, which would be, light tech housing, which we would be advocates for as well. And all that's good stuff. But we think that right now our problem is supply. That's for a few reasons. COVID happened, right? People were very fortunate in that they either got a 3% mortgage or they refinanced to a 3% mortgage. Does anyone have one of those? Right. So a lot of people are sitting on some pretty sweet deals right now, and they're unwilling to give up their homes in order to pay for a higher mortgage rate. At the same time, you have a lot of millennials and Gen Z coming into home buying age, and they're competing over the same types of houses that baby boomers are fighting over right now, because they tend to be those smaller kind of starting homes. That's creating a lot of pressure. In Norfolk, the average home buyer spends about 40% of their paycheck on the house, which is actually one of the top regions in the country in terms of housing, the amount of money that people spend on their housing. It's like San Francisco levels, right? I mean, people always talk about why San Francisco has so many problems. Well, that's one of the reasons, right? Housing. So we advocate on 3 different levels. We advocate on policy, politics, and projects. So on the policy level, we work with city council members, planning departments, and on the state level with our state representatives on some housing reforms. We can get into that a little bit later. But then projects, there's a development that's coming out online for the city, and it's something to consider. It's going before planning commission or before city council. We'll get out there and we'll advocate and we'll say, hey, this is a really good project. You guys need to support this. This is really great. And then politics, Jeremy McGee, right? We endorsed him. He won. We're very proud of him for the campaign that he ran. Carlos Clanton, it was a nail biter campaign for him, but he was an advocate of some our YIMBY policies, and so we chose to support him as well. And so now we have our representatives in city council. We're hoping for more. Obviously, we've been in contact with everyone in city council, frankly. And so we have a lot of support, and hopefully, things are lined up for more policies being pushed through. So what are we looking at? Like, what would we like to see? Well, we want to try to reel back some of that sprawl out development that you see, right? You go to Military Circle, right? You just see nothing but sprawl, right? You go Tidewater Drive, right? You see nothing but sprawl. I mean, you guys know these places that I'm talking about. Those look like that by design. You talk about Will was talking about code, but this is more of a factor of the planning department and zoning ordinances. One of the biggest ones are parking requirements for commercial developments. You see this big giant box stores, right? You have a sea of asphalt, and you got to cross the street or cross this parking lot. Lord knows how bad that gets on the middle of August, right? Going to Walmart or whatever, right? Well, that's because the city requires a certain amount of parking lot per square foot of these big box stores, and that eats up a ton of space for the city. That's land that the city could use for more housing, right? That's land that because that eats up the space to build like these big giant parking lots, has less land, and it increases the cost of housing because there's literally less land to build on. It's more of like kind of a supply and demand thing if you think about it. So we would advocate to abolish parking minimums. City of Newport News just passed that with some pretty good fanfare in order to encourage development. Another thing would be ADUs or accessory dwelling units. I'm sure if you guys, we know them by different names: carriage houses, granny flats, those types of developments. You walk, they're all over Ghent, right? Because of the historic kind of nature of Ghent. They're all over Freemason, right? A structure that would look like the main structure, right? That would be off in a lot of a size that would be able to fit it. That the owner of the home could then either, rent to someone, just as a traditional landlord-tenant situation with their families. This wouldn't be an Airbnb situation. I mean, actually, another great model for that is what they did in Newport News. That's exactly the types of rules that they passed in Newport News. Again, it's been really successful and supported by the community, and it's something that our city council members are looking at ways to make this work for our city. The next one is an interesting one. We're trying to figure out how it can work, because I think it can work differently in different contexts. But Norfolk is full of a lot of legacy, abandoned churches with a dwindling congregation, and the congregation wants to. They're unable to keep up the church, right? And we see that a lot in Norfolk, right? But they want to give it away in a manner that would be kind of consistent with their mission and their values, right? And so we've had a lot of pastors come to us. Paul Rice, who's with me, can attest to this, that say, look, we would love to convert our church into residential for the homeless. Maybe it's a halfway shelter, or maybe it's just low income housing, or maybe it's a halfway shelter for women or veterans or whoever, or even if it's just more just market rate housing. But the city, and this is nationwide, this is not just picking on Norfolk, it's extremely difficult to convert a church into residential. Now, it's very easy to build a church in a neighborhood, and that's why we had churches in all of our neighborhoods, but it's very, very difficult to go the other way. That's what we're looking as well to try to find solutions for that. Another one, obviously we want to make sure that we have more like mixed use development. We see, again, like Military Circle, they want to do something with that mall. I think the city was kind of throwing out the idea of doing like a sports arena or some kind of training facility. Turns out that mall sits on a place that is beyond a 100-year floodplain for Norfolk. It's one of the very few places in the city where that's a reality. And why don't we build housing there, right? I mean, that's something that we would push for as well. And last but not least is looking at setback requirements and minimum lot size requirements. So those rules were written more in the 50s and 60s when we had cheap oil and gasoline, when people wanted more kind of this, the Leave It to Beaver, giant lots, but a very small house, that type of thing. And that really doesn't work for Norfolk, right? Norfolk's built out, right? Well, we think we're something like 92% built out, probably even more than that. But, you go back to, neighborhoods like Ward's Corner, right? Like neighborhoods like even Talbot Park, or, further down south, obviously like Ghent, right? It's a great example of this. Minimum lot sizes are very small because they were made in a time where like that really wasn't something to think about, and people live just fine. I mean, obviously you guys have people with no clothes on walking up and down the street, and people painting their houses, God knows what, but that's not, we don't YIMBY house color, just housing design. So yeah, I mean, basically, we are looking for members, right? We're looking for people, that are engaged in their civic leagues, who, something has come up. Maybe there's an interesting project, or maybe there's something that they're more curious about how they can make this work for their own house. We advocate for housing. We're not just going to advocate for the big development downtown, as you could probably sense by what I'm saying. We're also advocating for the homeowner, right? We want to give the homeowner the rights and the ability to do with their property what they would like to do. So that's basically the gist of it. If you guys have any questions, Paul and I are here. Yeah, I mean, we can have that conversation with housing. Yes.
What kind of housing would you put in Home Depot parking lot? Would it have to be a high-rise apartment?
Not necessarily. I mean, what we would advocate perhaps is more of a diversity of housing, right? So it's, again, like something that we do see in a Ghent, something like we would see in a Freemason, where we have not only the single family, but we do have the apartments, but we also have what's called missing middle housing, which is something that I probably should have talked about more in my rant. But you know, you go in a lot of these older Norfolk neighborhoods, we have what we like to call six packs, which are these really large apartment units. I mean, they're single family homes just stacked on top of each other in rows of 3, some in rows of 4. And they served a really useful purpose when they were built. That was the first place people would live in when they bought their first home. At some point in the 70s, we made those illegal. And the reason why we did that is there was this argument which made sense at the time, but now we're 50 years in the future, it's turned out it was flawed, that if you go above 3 stories, you need another flight of stairs in the doors of your apartment. As anyone who's ever built a stairwell in their house, like Lord knows, I don't think anyone here has because it's expensive as hell. It's the same way when you build apartments. And so right now at the state level, we are working with some state delegates who are studying this and seeing how can we reform the state construction code in order to make that more legal. So that would be something clearly that we would want preferable over any development in that area. But you know, what you're talking about really is kind of retrofitting those areas. And so you're going to, obviously there needs to be a parking lot for Home Depot, and that's not what we're arguing. We're not saying that parking lots need to be abolished. But what we do want to see is, you know, a place where maybe someone who works at Home Depot can go walk down the street and live there, or maybe if it's a nice enough community, maybe it's somewhere where maybe you might want to live and you're right by all the shops and everything that you need for you know, if it's a nice enough community. And so that's kind of what we're pushing for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a Kmart still over there, or it's abandoned, right?
Yeah, that's our friendly Kroger.
So that would be the same thing. And that's a good point. Well, and again, like a part of that is, and this is why we advocate for housing all the way from the stereotypical luxury apartments all the way down, you know, to Section 8 housing, is because that is in many ways an effective housing crisis in Norfolk, right? We don't have the types of communities that would serve the populations that from a retail perspective, like those people would be living to and be shopping at, and that's why they always move over to Richmond Beach. Obviously, that's not the case, but you know, that's what they're seeing. Yes, sir.
I just want to say, refreshing to hear this side of it after you see all the publicity splash of the Norfolk and MacArthur Mall down there.
Yeah.
Some of these things be like, oh wow, or you referred to military. I mean, it's just refreshing to hear this other side. Maybe approach the problem a little bit differently.
Yes.
And it would be multi-use. Yeah, fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are like to your point, the city's at a very unique time right now in its history, right? We do have that flatline population, but we are in a very good opportunity right now to turn that around with developments like what could happen at MacArthur, what could happen at Military Circle, especially. Again, we have the blueprint right in our neighborhoods right now. Just walk in any of our older neighborhoods, and you can see that's the solution right there. Those types of developments are exactly what we need to carbon copy and put where we are now, you know, in those places.
So you mentioned the missing middle, right?
Yeah.
We got lots of single family homes. We got plenty of massive apartment complexes,
Yes.
and then there's fewer and fewer now of these, you know, very small, you know, couple unit complexes. But how do, like, I guess, how do we, or is there anything you can do on your side to help, like, kind of, or with the policy, with to like incentivize people, you know, developers building that way? Is that like a financial thing that, you know, they look and go, that's worth it if I can get the right lot size, but I'm just not allowed to right now? Or?
That's exactly right. I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing. So it's a factor of lot size. It's a factor of, you know, setback requirements. It's a factor of single stair, which is huge. So every builder has to comply by the state building code, right? guys like Will, but at the state level or go around, everyone's, which that obviously exists for something that's very good. So, but passing single stair reform will enable those types of developments that we see in Ghent back online. It would help bring newer versions of that, which would be great to see. And minimum lot sizes, enabling minimum lot size to allow for more missing middle housing is good. The big thing in Norfolk is actually making sure that those comply with stormwater requirements. Apartments, people do look at apartments different than single family homes, even though they use the same pound for pound, they actually use the same amount of pipes. But we've decided that they require more stringent stormwater requirements than that. So that's something I think that we need to take another look at.
How about like really affordable, whether it's single family home or townhomes I feel like we're either really high or really high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really nothing in between for people who, I don't know, say earn 60,000 a year, or I think, what is it? I heard like most people have to have a 3-figure income to afford a home.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous.
So
the fact that they can only build these like luxury apartments that you see when you see them downtown, right? I think there's 2 of them that are coming online right now. It's a function of the zoning and the design requirements that we force on these developers. So for example, the reason why you see this kind of like really ugly, like 5/1 architecture that we all kind of look and scoff at is because we require them to utilize more than one material when they construct their house, or sorry, construct their building. So, they can only, given like construction costs is a factor obviously, but the regulatory structure, a developer is only willing to risk buying an enormous lot, building a giant luxury apartment in a design that we call like a Texas donut, where we have the parking garage in the middle and they're all ringed around. There's a couple of those good examples in Norfolk. And that's all they can do. And so what we want to do is work with the city to reform zoning ordinances to make it easier for, smaller homeowners, and even, I guess I know people kind of wince at the word developer, but smaller developers, if they wanted to build these missing middle homes that people need so much.
Yeah, I know, but it all still comes down, I guess, to material, because you can build a home and in 15 years or 20 years it looks like trash.
Yeah.
Because of the material used to build it. So therefore, you're still kind of stuck in this situation of now it just becomes a lower income area, or can play down to that because it's falling, out of.
Well, I mean, yes and no.
I guess.
I think some of that depends on the facts, right, of the different of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, you do see the way that building more homes contributes to less prices is through what's called filtering, right? And you see even people who live in other parts of the city will move to a new development, and at the same time that frees up housing for other people as well. As far as the materials and stuff, we are obviously all for like complying with the city code, complying with the construction code, making sure that materials are quality. And it is true that some of the function, especially given what may be coming down the road here pretty soon, construction costs may increase. But the idea is that once we have these reforms on hand on paper, that once, because construction costs is a commodity like anything else, once the prices go back down, then we'll be well suited for, making sure that we can build a lot more abundant housing.
What would be wrong with the little tiny house building?
Not at all. We think it's great.
Newport News allows it now.
Yeah.
Single and retired.
I think it's excellent. People get a lot of pushback with those because they worry that they're going to rent them out as Airbnbs. That's the big pickup.
Had a little village.
No, of course, no. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
I talk about missing middle and those 6-packs and 8-packs, but one of the other missing middle designs that we stopped doing in Norfolk are courtyards, right? There's a couple of them again. There's a couple of them scattered about. Is smaller kind of starter homes ringed around in a lot size.
For us older that want to downsize, or
absolutely,
having other people around too.
Having a community, absolutely. That's terribly important. The biggest issue with that the city gets hung up about is lot size. They won't.
well, you got these empty parking lots.
Exactly right. I think that's perfect.
So, I mean, but
Okay.
with that, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
No, but with that being said, like on a smaller home or courtyard, I mean, isn't that like up to if you put in an HOA or some kind of
A condo association.
Yeah.
association without using,
That's what
I
we
mean,
tried to
the word
do.
condo
City
association,
said
because
no.
fees just
Yes.
go nuts, but in a way to keep it so that you don't allow for Airbnbs
Oh,
or,
of course.
there's specific.
Yeah, of course. I think that's, I mean, there's plenty of governing regulatory structures that you can do for a housing development. I mean, one only needs to look at like East Beach to see
Yeah.
all the stringent like design requirements and like maintenance requirements that they put over there. Any of those could be applied to any of the developments we're talking about. We're not necessarily opposed to that either. I mean, if that's what keeps, to your earlier issue that you raised, if that's what keeps people in line, that's what works.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Aaron.
You mentioned helping with like home buying grants and stuff like that.
Yes.
Norfolk redevelopment and housing is an absolute tragedy
Yes.
in that. Are you guys working? It is. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Are you guys involved in that at all?
So
or-
we're not involved with NRHA.
Yeah.
And the reason why is kind of what you're hinting at, but we're, as you can
I
kind of
can
see.
imagine. They're a joy.
Well, more like from our perspective, we're bringing it more from the supply side as opposed to the demand side. The point being is that, it sounds really good on paper if you give a bunch of first time home buyers, free money. But what it does is that it's what we saw in the pandemic. It incentivizes demand when there's a lack of supply, right? Anyone who's taken Econ 101 knows what happens when you do that. Prices go up. And so
But they're not actually able to do it because their process and their system is absolute garbage.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, there's not a seller in town with a property that'll actually qualify for it that would
No.
accept that product because they'll, 10 days after it was supposed to close, they'll come back and say, oh, that person was never qualified in the first place, so we're not going to write the loan.
Yeah, no, it's a huge mess.
So I don't know that they're actually giving grants. I mean, very few every year from what I see.
Exactly. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, and those people still need homes whether they go through NRHA or not, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, again, why we're kind of advocating for more housing units in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Lord knows
Well, and
NRHA
if we
needs
get
to-
more housing units in the system, that's all great, but their system's broken.
Yes.
So even if we had more, we had a perfectly fine house. In fact, the inspector came out and said he had to look for things to point out because couldn't go back with nothing.
Right.
And then they denied the loan 10 days after it was supposed to close. So, I mean, it's indicative of a problem where even if we do have housing, because I will tell you, some of those people will buy the houses that
Right.
the millennials don't.
Well, you bring up a point I didn't want to raise, but it was permitting reform, right? I mean,
Right.
the city really needs to look at the process for how does it approve homeowners? How does it approve houses, right? There's too many veto points baked into the system, whether or not
Yeah.
you're a homeowner, you're going through NRHA, whether it's through incompetence or whether it's through something more regulatory that the city needs to take a more critical look at.
It's an expensive program not to be utilized by people that actually live here, and the money's all going to states like Ohio or
Right.
Alabama.
Yeah.
It
They
would
did
be
get
nice-
They did get caught for doing that.
They
didn't
did get
Yes,
caught
they
for
did.
doing that, but it would be nice if it was actually utilized here.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I know we're all sweating bullets here.
It is hot.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if you guys are interested, oh, yes.
One question. Last time I came civics meeting, we were talking about staying green, but I noticed that they're building up a lot of houses on the green, a lot of condos and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What about us staying green? Are we not staying green anymore?
So it's interesting you bring that up. So someone who lives in an apartment actually uses less carbon than someone who uses a single family home. You go to the average resident of New York City is actually greener than someone who lives in suburban Suffolk, right? And it's because they're utilizing less carbon. They don't have to drive as much. They're walking more. Their apartment is more efficient because it's stacked in a larger building. So furthermore though, there's also, so like parking minimums, right? The effect of reducing parking minimums, you're not going to see parking lots disappear, right? In effect, what you see is a 25% reduction in parking lot space. That space that could be used for something more useful, such as housing, but also it could be used for something like making sure that we have more natural runoff barriers to prevent the kind of day-to-day flooding that we have, right? And that's something I think the city could incorporate as well. So we are part of that solution. I know it's something you don't necessarily think about because you say, oh, well, you're building this building that uses concrete and steel, that can't be green. But in fact, the person who lives there is actually utilizing less carbon emission than they would be living in a single family suburban home. So anyway, just something to think about. If you guys are interested in YIMBY some more, I'll be next to Paul here. We're looking for members. We're looking for more advocates. So good to see you.
Awesome. Thank you, Grayson. All right, Adele, you want to give us an update on schools? Sure.
I'm happy to answer any questions. And speaking of housing, I just moved across the street over here, right next to Granby Elementary. So I've been there a couple months. So I'm Dr. Adale Martin. I'm your school board representative for Ward 1. And I want to thank everyone for voting, your biannual voting earlier this month. And just want you, want you to know that are going to have a completely new board come January 1st. So it's going to be really interesting. Onboarding is going to be interesting, and we still need to appoint someone for Carlos's empty seat for Ward 3.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
They're not finished counting the votes for that position. They're still counting
I
today.
thought it was recently
You now see
approved.
one on Saturday.
Yeah.
They're still in circuit court today. Carlos,
Okay.
and it's like there's 90-something.
I saw a check mark next to his name and I looked.
He said that, but.
No, I actually saw it on the
Right,
elections
right.
website. So that's fine.
There'll
Thank
be
you.
lots of change
Yeah.
either way.
No, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Lots of change coming.
Okay, so asterisk on that. So yeah, I saw a lot of you all at Grayson Elementary, so I appreciate you coming out and voting. So today, it's been a hodgepodge. Usually we're all just getting reelected or elected, but we had Ward 5 was an appointed special election. So Ken Paulson, he was sworn in today, so he's now officially official. I was there for that to witness that, which is always nice to see someone take that oath. The other thing, so outside of elections, is the school year start. Well, you've probably heard about the governor's executive order to ban cell phone use in schools, and that is from bell to bell, so from the very beginning bell to the end. That includes in the hallways and during any type of lunch or anything, any activities going on in the school from bell to bell. And so we went ahead and took the initiative to implement that from day one, and that was really important since the still we weren't coming in the springtime and having to implement it. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I do on this. One of the big issues I've noticed with some of the other school systems here, or at least in Norfolk, is not so much the cell phones, it's the smartwatches that are in there, they're being used and not being effectively taken out of the equation. That's just,
Yeah, that
Sorry,
is
that's
difficult. But my point to saying all this is that we right now have a survey. So I would encourage you all to go on our website. It's going to be on the scrolling main screen of the website, and click on that and please participate in it. We want to hear your feedback. I know there's some special cases where children have glucose monitoring and things like that. So we're still working through those kinks. But it's all in the name of, for example, since cell phone use, the one statistic that is terrifying and it sticks out to me is suicide rates for females has gone up 146%. Bullying over 110%. So it's important that we do everything we can to keep these children safe and also have healthy mental practices, and we want they're gonna run our world someday, so we want them to be safe.
How did
And
teachers take the phones away from students? How are teachers?
We don't, we call security, but there's not enough security to hit every room at the same time, so it's kind of a. So I teach at Granby High School.
Okay, but my cousins in Carolina, they said that they go into class and all students put it in a box or a bag or something else. I didn't know if that's what.
They talked about utilizing that at one point, but right now it's just up to teachers to enforce and then security to take over. But we weren't given any extra supports by the state when they made this. We don't.
Well, it's still executive order, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they made it happen, but they didn't give us any extra labor to deal with this extra problem that we have. And now the kids are just distracting.
So basically, you can just say, take the phone away from them. They do You can take the phone away. I don't think they'll keep it.
They have so basically it just means that we can take it now, whereas before, because if you see on the news, most of the fights or altercations against a teacher in schools were over cell phones. So now it's basically like the law is on our side, where before it was.
Yeah, so we have, if you go on the survey, or you can actually read the policy that's drafted. And part of it is they get the cell phone taken away, and then a parent has to call the office. So it goes down to the office. The parent's supposed to call the office and then come in and get it. And then, there's like different phases of that if it keeps happening, reoccurring. And what we've always done is we've always asked our teachers to come up with a way that they can best manage cell phone use in their classroom. And we've had classes where they actually use their cell phones in the classroom. So we can't really enforce a blanket statement to all of our 46 schools in the district. So
a lot of times you have Chromebook issues and stuff, so you have to let them use the phone anyway because they can't. Everything is done through a QR code or something, and then they can't scan the QR code, so then you have to give them permission to use the phone, or the Chromebooks won't work, or they're all dead.
So I can wait till Carly fills out the survey.
I just see the good in it. It's just that it's up to teachers to enforce, and
it's
more
a
labor
change.
on us.
It's a change.
People.
You have to adapt to it. All of that. Oh, also it came up at the city council retreat today. There was a big discussion around our district, and we're talking about the dwindling population, and we've talked about this before. And so that's one of the things that I haven't been chair. Tiffany's been chair, and I'm not sure why, but she hasn't put this on the agenda. But we are going to consolidate our school district, which means we're going to be closing some schools down. And
we're still discussing which schools.
Yeah.
That's why
we don't know yet which schools. Well, I have an idea, but we did just take Madison, which is the alternative school that was over behind the CVS on Hampton Boulevard. That is now been turned back over to the city, and Coronado which is over on it's not Princess, what is that?
Region Road.
Okay, yeah, so we've given that back to the city as well. And what's great about it, that is the city has agreed to whatever the sale is of those properties, it'll come back to the schools, which is really nice. So we're making some progress there.
So are they still gonna do something with those buildings? Like
Sell them.
So they're gonna do like apartments or something like that, like over.
That's up to whoever purchases that. Yeah.
I think solve all the problems.
Go ahead.
A few months ago, a speaker came and said they were thinking about closing Granby Elementary, so that they could expand Granby High and send our Granby Elementary kids over to schools.
School board members we have not talked about anything like that. I don't know where that came from. Granby is on the list to be renovated. Granby Elementary is, and it has been. And so it's like a part of the next 3 schools to be renovated. That's a rumor.
Yeah, those only a.
I think that was an
Yeah,
audience.
she said that was not official, but that was a thought.
We just got, so we put together a strategic plan, and we have a monitoring calendar to monitor our progress on the strategic plan. And we just covered our reading test scores for Black students as a subgroup, and they were up, and we're really excited about that. This is the first class, the 3rd graders, it's the first class that didn't have to go through COVID. And so we're seeing that they are reading most of our students are reading on grade level. We break it down into special education, Black students, special education students, and English language learners. So I know I hate the way that we do that to children, but the way we have to really make sure that there's equity in our education system and to make sure that no one's falling through the cracks. And so that was really refreshing news to hear that they are reading and actually excelling. So if you go back and want to watch the workshop that happened before the business meeting on Wednesday, I encourage you to do that if you're interested. Any other questions for me?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why there was no notification to parents at Granby that
Granby High
there
or
was
elementary?
elementary,
Okay.
that there was change in leadership. And at one point, there was no leader.
They brought in Miss Russian though.
Yeah, when did she start?
I don't know which day she started, but she's an amazing
Yeah,
principal, and
because
she's a really amazing support.
there was probably a good 4 weeks that I've noticed no principal or assistant principal.
Yeah, people were coming to me to be like, who am I supposed to talk to if we have the
Okay.
meeting? Oh, it's you.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know
And
that.
even with Miss Russian coming in,
Mhm.
there was no notification that she was coming in. It was just, I was at the honor roll assembly and she's like, hi, I'm Miss Russian. I started a few weeks ago or something like that. And I'm like, oh, it's
Yeah.
good to know who's watching my child.
Yeah.
I have the same experience.
Okay. Okay. I'll say something about that. My children are at Granby High School, so I knew there was some changeover, but I didn't understand that it wasn't communicated properly. So
I guess is there a policy when leadership changes that they're notifying parents?
it
or
seems
the-
like there's, I mean, it wouldn't be a policy, it should be a practice. I mean, that's just,
Has been, you get at least staff and stuff.
yeah, you would get a robocall, like they can robocall just the parents of Granby Elementary.
Right.
So I don't,
Right.
again, since my kids aren't there, I didn't know that didn't happen,
Yeah,
so,
no, and then
but you can always call me or email me, my information's on the website.
I think what Cedric is saying is out of the like 3,000 robocalls,
Yeah.
that's the one he wanted to hear.
But if it was like, you know, closer to, you're wondering, what's going on here? You could have called me and I could have made sure that happened, so.
but there's also the lack of communication about the situation encouraged more rumors.
Yeah.
And encouraged more talking about what was going on. And because there was no clarity or there was no there's no conversation about what happened, the things that I heard from like both sides of because parents kind of talked to me a lot.
Personnel issues, so everything's confidential, so.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. You can send a blast that says, we have a personnel issue. This is what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
This person is on leave.
I agree with you. We have a PR department, like, absolutely should have done that. So,
Seems like there's communication issue across the board in the school district. Like just not being able to get surveys responded to, websites real tough to navigate. Is there anything in the strategic plan in regards to a focus on how you communicate effectively in the community? It might be a good,
mhm.
it might be a good thing.
There
to hit.
is if you, and I can get the booklets, Dr. Birdsong's goals, like that she's made
Yeah.
for the division. There is a whole communications piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a frequent thing that comes up, the robocalls or not having the surveys replied to, so you don't know what parents want, or,
I mean, we've actually had real good success with our surveys.
oh, well, somebody was here and there was not good success with the survey. I don't remember. That was that same person that brought. But yeah, so maybe
I mean,
it's
we
a
always
different
want more
survey.
input,
Yeah,
you
it
know.
was the calendar survey.
I think
Yeah.
is we
yeah,
respond
it
to
was
the
the calendar
survey, but
survey.
they don't listen to our
Well,
As a calendar, the board, we get it and then the board ended up
Yeah.
voting.
Yeah, maybe it was the calendar survey, but the website is absolutely tragic
It
too,
just
all of
costs
them.
a lot of
Yeah.
money to print materials that nobody's ever gonna read, like
The handbook.
the handbook, the this year's strategic plan.
There's literally the piece of paper in the front that every parent is supposed to sign.
Yeah,
and
you
turn
rip it out, you
in.
sign it, and then you throw away the
No,
entire
no.
book.
But I mean, like, no one's really even signing it and turning it in. I
Well,
mean,
it
there's
could be a
some
Google form,
outdated,
honestly. We
outdated
could save money on
practices.
that and then update the website, so it's actually user friendly, you can actually find information on it when you look for it.
I will bring all this back to
Yeah,
administration.
awesome.
Yeah, it should be
All
electronic.
right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Sure, thanks. Okay,
It's just gamified.
as Bill mentioned,
Dinner goes a far way.
City Council's in a retreat right now, so Martin thinks that's more important than this meeting.
Fair.
Actually,
Thank you guys.
well, actually, Martin did say he would, that was being recorded, but anyway, Martin said he would rather be here than there.
Right.
Well, that's what Claudia said.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah. So we had a task force meeting on Thursday. I'm trying to think, Jen, what the, I don't know, there was a whole lot. It actually was a reasonably quick meeting. I think we talked some about some of the development and the property owners that have come in. So the Midtown Center, I think all of you know that there's a new landlord that took over from or bought it from the Dallas family. That's Richard Levin, who I think people are probably familiar with, who owns properties in other parts of the city. That seems, from what I hear, very interested in renting out the whole space. So I believe Martin and I think other city council people have been clear with them about what types of tenants they would like to see, as in like what grade or quality they would like to see. Not, super bottom discount retailers. They're looking for we're down to just one mattress store. We might be able to get a few
Does
more.
everybody buy a mattress in the store?
I do.
Ours came
Yeah,
out
you can haggle with them pretty well. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. There wasn't any more news on the old Farm Fresh property as of yet. They're still. I think the landlords are motivated to do something. They just haven't done it right. That they've been they haven't been getting money for a year now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's out.
They've been paying their own bills for a year now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about garden? Garden? Nothing?
I can only tell you what I hear, which is nothing. But what we were told is everything is on schedule.
Yeah, they gotta clean up the rubble.
Everything's on schedule.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
It's all clear. They might make it announcement.
just patience.
Yeah.
In the meantime, since the last meeting, we did get Little Creek Road reopened in this section.
Quick too, yeah.
They're about to start paving the other sections. Hopefully that'll be done before end of the year, like it's supposed to. And then people have been, like this week, already speeding like 50 miles an hour back down. Wide open. And then I see like one person gun it one way, and then someone coming the other way is like, "Oh, that sounds like fun," and they gun it. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying to think. We are, I think, going to try to get John in here in the new year sometime to talk about the Riverview Theater and what's going on there. So that's all moving along real well. So they're renovating that. You should see the marquee getting lit up in the next month or so. So that's exciting stuff. But was there? I'm trying to think, Joan, was there anything else of note from the task force meeting? They just, I don't know, they said, I think we're still sticking with May for this building swing. So I'm going to try to get with Brian here and find out if he has any idea what his current move out date is, if we need to relocate our April and or May meetings.
Yeah, and I was out here on the field, where the pool is, the outdoor pool. And I don't know, but I don't know if I just noticed it, but there's 8 trees that they planted over there.
Recently?
I think so. Isn't that supposed to be a formula?
Hopefully they can dig them back up.
Yes, no, they're
Usually within 2 years you can dig them back up. All right. And Chris was keeping tabs on the guys at North Shore.
Oh yeah, they got all kinds of. There is new mulch underneath the playground equipment as of this morning, so they were dumping that this morning, but they're weeks away. Chris has got a very ambitious
I'm not sure
idea.
Who to talk to.
Yeah, no.
They
just did more.
He's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, they just made it worse, as of last week. So I don't know where he was getting his info from, but. Yeah, they're weird.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I was asking Chris. Was I'm not sure I understand what they're doing here.
Well,
So anyway, we maybe,
I hope it helps flow the
we'll see
water.
where it goes, or they might be here in January answering questions.
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, build a great dike.
It was interesting, the added addition of mulch that is nowhere near the project that they're working on this morning.
Right.
So that was fun. Yeah, there's fresh mulch underneath the slide.
Oh, underneath the playground.
Yeah,
equipment.
under the
Oh,
playground
okay.
equipment.
That's
Yeah,
probably a different. group.
it is probably a totally
That was
different
on
project.
schedule.
It probably just
Yeah.
runs out of there and into the straw.
Maybe.
Um,
I don't hang out there a lot. I'm not 14.
all right,
You
so
have to be 14 to hang out there.
the one official piece of business I do have to make sure I cover is that we have a couple proposed changes to the bylaws. And so there's nothing to vote on tonight. We will take a vote, or we'll actually take a motion in a second.
This is
all
the
that.
most important part of
Yeah,
this.
I know.
In January, right? But we have to read them tonight so that you can hear them, what we're proposing. Unfortunately, I tried to print them in color there. Google, when you're doing like suggested changes, like you can only do it in green. Apparently you can't change that color. Google's fixed that for life. So it's a little bit, I would have put in red or something much easier to see. But the two areas we're changing, or proposing to change, I should say, are the first paragraph, actually the first sentence of the finance section, right? And what we're proposing to do is change it from the annual dues of the league shall be set by the board, by the BOD. So we're going to actually spell that out, board of directors. We're going to insert the annual dues and any lifetime dues of the league shall be set by the board of directors, with the idea that it gives the board the authority or ability to, charge like a lifetime, or to provide a lifetime membership if they deem that fiscally prudent.
Fabulous idea. Fabulous idea.
So anyways, it's not saying that will be there, but the ability to do that is there.
Joel, that's where I said it. We were coming for your money.
You're telling the truth.
Hold on, I'm gonna get to that. The other spot we're proposing to make changes are in elections and voting. There's a couple just like administrative clerical changes about that recommending candidates would be in the January meeting, not the December meeting, and the election would be in the January meeting, not the December meeting, and the installation would be in February, and that's just because we haven't been meeting in December for years now, and so this is what we've been doing, so we're just matching that to what we've shifted to doing. The one important addition, especially for myself, we're proposing is that officers shall be eligible to succeed themselves, and we're inserting in here for a maximum of 3 terms in the same office. So the way that is to be interpreted is that someone could be the president for, because our term is a year, they could be a president for 3 years, and then they must do something else. They can still be on the board, but they can't be president for at least a year before you come back.
100%.
I'm getting out of my job here. Well, everyone's getting out of their job. So
Straight up. Down.
yeah. So again, it's not saying you can't be on the board. It's not saying you can't just sit out a year and come back, but it does put a strict, again, 3-year limit on someone being in the exact same position. Does that make sense?
Is that definite? Is that definite?
That's what we're proposing.
That's what we're proposing here. Yeah, is that addition?
Also, to encourage other people to maybe step up and hold a position as well.
Correct.
Would be really, really good. Don't worry, he's
A lot of
coming.
fingers
It's
getting
happening.
pointed.
Yeah.
A lot of fingers getting pointed. So again, the two, like I said, there's a couple clerical things here, but the two big things are to propose that the board could establish a lifetime dues membership, and that any of the people on the board could only serve in the same position for a maximum of 3 years. So again, we can go through the official bits of this in January, but wanted to read those out so everyone can go back home, tell all your neighbors, yell about it, across the yards and the fences and everything. Yeah.
That's the biggest news in the neighborhood right now.
Does that mean we keep you for 3 more years?
No.
No.
I think I will then determine when my starting year was. But to that same thing, I will say that my intention is at least to be president through when this building gets torn down. So I would like to see construction begin.
So where were you?
Which brings me actually to one point I want to make. I think were some folks here in the last public meeting for this building. I know was it just you and me?
No, Matt Martin and.
I know Martin was. So yeah.
Who else was here?
Yeah.
Mr. Pitt's here.
So the one thing I'll say is the board's talked some, and there's a lot of to keep it short. There's a lot of angst at that meeting from groups that want to be included in the building. They previously said they didn't want to be included in the building, and the board's stance, and if someone, if you're a board member, you want to say, Scott, that's not what I said, like, get out of here, you can tell me that. But our stance was that we are in favor of keeping this construction in this building on schedule, on track, and moving forward, and not stopping and doing a major change order and delaying projects and things like that.
No.
Everybody had their opportunity
at the very beginning.
We're in support of the programs and things that,
Yes.
that they find the right place, but this building needs to move forward.
Yeah.
You said that
It needs
perfectly.
to move forward. So that at least my kids might be able to use it for a year. before they leave. All right, any committee reports? Yes, you
We
did
do
have
have some committee stuff if anybody wants to serve next year. There's some sign-up sheets out here. But the biggest committee request is we're kind of looking for quote unquote block captains to help us with signage. So we are going to invest in some new meeting signs so we get more meeting signs out there at a huge impact, right? So the idea is that we'll put a lot of signs out, which may bring a larger impact from a visibility standpoint. So we are looking for people who will just raise their hand to put 1 or 2 signs out prior to each meeting every month. That's the biggest ask right there is, will you take a sign, keep it in your garage? They're the little like yard sale signs with the H stakes on them. Put it in your garage, a sign or 2, and then commit to putting them out prior to the meeting. That's all the ask is.
You don't even have to have a garage.
Yeah.
You keep it in your house.
Yeah, I don't care where actually, you can keep it in your car. That's true. I don't care where you keep the sign. Yeah. However, I keep a lot of signs in my life, so wherever you want to keep them. But if you're interested in that, there's just the welcome neighbor committee. That's just all part of it. Yeah. And we would really, really appreciate help on that because if you haven't noticed, I was in charge of picking up the event signs and I totally didn't. So we need help. We need help. No, I know. I've been really busy. I apologize.
We're just leaving out for the next
we have another event coming up in a couple of weeks. So I almost left
The basis from all the election signs for those?
Yes, if you have the H stakes from the election signs, do save those. We will use those again because they do break. When you step on those metal H stakes, they break. So if you do have election sign H stakes left over, it's helpful to have those. Yeah. Yeah, I bet you.
This is not a civically related type question, but I'll bring it up anyway, about the mechanical buildings. Will there ever be driving through instead of just walking? Take the train?
I don't think so.
Why?
There were structural issues with one of the bridges, they said.
Well,
Runnings is still an
Well,
issue?
that's the last thing I heard. I haven't heard anything.
Clem, I can share my conspiracy theory, but
Oh.
yeah. I'm pretty sure I know why. Was there anything about the scholarship?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
no. Well, we
Okay,
do have
sure.
a scholarship committee coming up. It's going to be headed by Cedric's lovely wife. I don't know if she told you that. I thought she did. You were looking confused. Yeah. So Meredith will be heading that up. Meredith Pollard will be heading that up. But we are going to start a scholarship committee. So again, we're gonna come for your money again as well to fund that. Or to, fund it a little bit more. But also too, if you know seniors or students that live in Ward's Corner, stay tuned to make sure that they apply for it.
Since I can't be on the committee since I work there.
You cannot be on the
I can
committee.
share
You
the
can
information
share
for
the
you, though.
information.
I can help
That's right.
somehow.
We would love that. Yeah.
Ray, are you having a hard time collecting dues? I haven't paid mine.
Well, let me say this. In January, if you want to vote on the bylaws, technically you need to be paid up on your dues as a member.
So I would suggest that probably in January, we'll come up on all of them because we kind of would like to reset the clock to January for everybody.
And just do it at one time.
And just do it one time January. Everybody will just repay in January. And then the other idea behind that is if indeed we vote on these bylaws and we quickly then turn around and vote in a lifetime membership at the same time, you could just be a lifetime member at the January meeting.
That's right.
There you go.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You'll never want to move.
You can put it on your Christmas list. Please pay for my Ward Corner Civic League lifetime membership due. That's what you add to your Christmas wish list this year.
Maybe we'll give you a fancy card and everything.
We'll get you a yard sign to go with your other yard sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lifetime member.
The yard sign.
They're not just for kids in school. Okay?
Member of the month.
Just make sure you let Chris know, or Greg, we're gonna order more signs. I know you have that stuff. I'm sorry. Sticks? Oh, I mean, we don't need any yet, but we will need backup.
I mean, I will have a significant amount.
Yeah.
I can give you, and then
Sure.
somebody else can sort it.
Sure. His name is Chris DePalma. He's volunteering. He did. Did he not? He did. He really did. He volunteered because he pushed so hard for the signs. He gets all the signs in class.
Yeah, he said it's like-
He can be in
Sign
charge of
guy.
distribution.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah, don't forget though, if you will help us with signs,
Yes.
please let us know.
I have a question to ask in
Yep.
reference to signs. This side of the street, on this side is where the Civic League put in their signs, when this meeting is up, so this side, it's not on that side.
Yeah, I'm excited to give you signs.
Where you're
No,
gonna be getting
no,
signs.
no. I'm talking about why is the signs only on this side, not on that side also?
Because we need you to
Because
help us
Krista
get
Palmer
signs.
doesn't walk to
Yeah.
that side.
He
Yeah.
lives
One
here, I
mile.
don't.
Because it's one
Yeah.
person that
He
steps up.
lives here.
Yeah, so Clem, I expect you to sign up to take
Oh,
signs.
yeah, sure.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we do. We need help. We're
Yeah.
only so many
Yeah,
people,
that's it.
right?
So how many
Volunteering.
signs do you have?
Well, we will have a lot more. Don't even worry
Right
about
now,
it.
I would
Plenty.
definitely
right now, I think it's about
take
12,
time
and
to
Chris
sign.
puts them all out.
We are talking about ordering 100 signs.
You have to
Yeah.
give the states for the real estate.
Right,
No,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
I'm gonna give you the whole thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's on your street, just one street.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I think.
If you feel like there are no signs in your area, this is an excellent opportunity for you to remedy that.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it's not.
That's it.
Okay.
There's an Ace of Base song in here somewhere waiting for me.
I asked years ago, why isn't there lights on the crosswalk on Little Road and Little Gravy? But there's lights going down Newport Avenue. There, where the crosswalk, it says crosswalk, for people to push the button to cross the road by where 7-Eleven.
Oh, where it lights up?
They have been there for years. I've watched people run across the street, get hit by cars.
Or wherever they went
But-
across.
Yeah, true, but the thing is, if they see the light blinking, they'll know, hey, that's where we have to go that way to do crosswalk. Been there forever. All of a sudden, before COVID, it still hasn't been working. So it's been
Oh, you
like.
mean the actual blinking lights not working?
Yeah, it doesn't blink at all.
Oh,
It hasn't blinked in years, like 10
okay,
years.
well, we can try to get
Reported
that,
a long time
um,
ago.
yeah, we put that into Jamie, Brian, get that taken care of.
Nobody, you have that one-way sign on Grantham, and it just keep going.
But,
It's
no,
staying
but
on
it's
there.
a crosswalk where this lady,
I get it.
like 5 feet away, they can't walk there, so.
You're talking about down by like the 7-Eleven where the Rite Aid is,
That's one
that,
of them, and then where People's used to be, or Cornell,
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They just need lights, blinking lights, because
Yeah.
the signs are blinking.
Yeah.
They need to push the button to it.
Yeah.
But it does, but that's when it. But why is it doing only the four? So like, it's doing, like, we'll do something.
Should be, yeah. Okay. We can try to check on it. Okay. 8:00. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the holidays. We'll see you in January and vote on various things.
I can even take it down.
We'll do it right here tonight.